All and welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started with this meeting. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Madeline Kane. I'm a director at Kearns and West. I'm stepping in for Ben today as facilitator. Ben's off enjoying some time with family, so he's asked that I step in. He's written a couple of speaking points for me today, so if I sound too much like Ben, I apologize. I am going to try to say defibrillator correctly, though, so I'll have one up on him. So to get started, I just wanted to do a big thank you to the Metro team and to the co-chairs. They've done a really good job of getting me sort of
Recording in
today.
progress.
And really appreciate how much they've put into today, and also wanting to let you know that I understand that you all are the experts of this process, so I'll be leaning in on your expertise as well. Also wanted to be a big thank you to everyone here. I feel really privileged and honored to get to be a part of this work today and to get to see all the hard work that you've all put in. So to get started, I'm hoping we can do a quick round of introductions of the TCB members here. And we'll go ahead and start here with you, Co-Chair Matt Chapman.
Sure. Matt Chapman, Co-Chair. He is. Okay.
I think, can you repeat that? I don't know if the mic was on that. I'm sorry. I'll sit closer. There we go.
Okay. So with the mic on still, Matt Chapman, he, his, and I'm co-chair.
Thank you. Hi, Valeria McWilliams, she, her Regional Enlightenment Supervisor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Whoops. Thank you for reminding me to push the button on the mic. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Catherine Harrington. I'm the elected chair of the Washington County Board of Commissioners. And in case you're interested, I use she, her pronouns. I brought hard copies of the Washington County Year 2 annual report. And we certainly have them electronically on our website, but they makes for good reading.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, all. My name is Jess Larson. I use she and her pronouns and with the Washington County team as well. And I think we often share updates at this point, or should we wait for, is that a later agenda item? Right now, okay, great. Well, the big news we wanted to share is that our colleagues made, along with your new colleague, I believe, Ruth Atkins, made the WHYY news story on national radio out of Philadelphia, Steve. A story about medical records and medical data and coordinating services for health and housing for our community. And so it got picked up in this larger national story. And we'll make sure we put it in the link for this meeting so others can listen to it. It's a great little radio bit that we were proud to have Washington County represented in.
Thank you. Is that Ruth in her role with Kaiser?
It was Ruth in her former role, and now Ruth has a new role.
A new role with Metro. Wow, what a snag.
It's a win for all of us.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, that's excellent.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Monty Knudsen. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the executive director at Bridges to Change.
Hi, everybody. Steve Rudman. Happy Valentine's Day. He, him, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, everybody. Patricia Rojas, I use she and her pronouns, Housing Director for Metro.
Good afternoon, everybody. Liam Frost, he, him, his pronouns, Deputy Director here at Metro.
Ariella?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariella Dolan. I'm with Kearns and West, and I'll be developing the meeting summary today.
Great, and then let's go ahead and go around to the virtual room. Yvette, you're the first on the screen here, so maybe I'll let you go ahead and start.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Yvette Hernandez. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm here as a community member, and happy Valentine's.
Thanks. Okay, passing it along to Kano.
Oh, we still can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear
Now
me
we
now?
got you.
Great. Can you hear me now? Kanoy Eggleston. Good afternoon, everyone. My pronouns are she and hers. I'm the program director at the Joint Office of Homeless Services. And I guess I can give a quick update as well. I wanted to share about a couple PSH projects coming online. So we actually have 3 coming online. Actually, they just came online in Q2. It's over 115 PSH units, so we're happy about that. There'll be 3 of them. One is the Fairfield. We'll be working with a culturally specific provider to provide on-site services. We also have the Hazel Ying Lee apartments that are online, and then called Powellhurst Place. And so you all can hear a little bit more about it when we turn in our Q2 SHS report from Multnomah County. We've highlighted those projects, so we're excited about those online, and just welcoming everybody to the space. And could I turn it back over to Brianna Flores, my partner from Multnomah County?
Sure, go ahead, Brianna.
Hi folks, Brianna Flores, I use she and they pronouns, and I work with Kanoi in the joint office, and I support our SHS team as the program supervisor, and excited to share those updates with you in our upcoming quarter 2 report.
Great. Okay, go ahead and pass it to Michael.
Hi, Mike Liu with Foodmont Shopping Center. He, him pronouns from a community member.
Welcome. Okay, Vahid.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vahid Brown. I use he, him pronouns. I am with Clackamas County Housing and Community Development.
Great. Christina.
Cristina Palacios, she, her pronouns, and I'm with Housing Oregon. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, Zoila.
Hello, my name is Zoe Copiano, she, her, ella, and I'm from Community Action, Washington County.
Great, welcome. Co-chair Ebony Brown.
Hi, my name is Ebony Brown. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director of Greater Good Northwest and the co-chair of this board.
Fabulous, welcome. And then Abby.
Hi, everyone. Abby Ahern, she, her pronouns, Metro. I'm coughing a lot, so I'm buffering you all for my coughing with the internet.
Oh no, feel better, Abby.
Madeline?
Yes.
Over here.
Oh, great. Yeah. Gio?
Thank you. Giovanni Bautista, he, him, his pronouns. I'm an associate housing policy analyst here at Metro.
Malia Dieter, she, her pronouns, housing program assistant with Metro.
Fabulous.
And I just want to introduce very quickly a couple of new staff members that have joined us today. Just quickly, Cole Merkel and Hunter Belgard are both here, over here. Hunter and Cole, if y'all can stand up. Cole is our regional capacity manager, and Hunter Belgard is our data lead, has a ton of experience at HMIS, so we're very lucky as a community to have him join us on this effort.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome Counselor Lewis, too.
And Counselor, yeah.
No problem. And it looks like,
Oh, Madeline, they just want to introduce.
oh, please, go ahead.
Hey, y'all. Cole Merkel. It's really nice to be on this side of the table. I've been in the audience a lot. He, him, his pronouns, as Patricia said, I just joined as the Housing Regional Capacity Manager. And we'll be updating you on the work that our team is doing, I think in April, but I just want to share 2 priorities that we could really use some support on. First of all, we will be putting out a hiring, a technical assistance RFQU. Same thing kind of as an RFPQ, we just say it a little bit differently here at Metro, that we've been working with the counties on in collaboration. So that'll be released probably the last week of the month. And if you all have folks that you know who would be really good at human resources, program design, racial equity, financial services, et cetera, please let us know who should be outreached to, and we'll get those names to our procurement team. I know that many of you have worked with great consultants over the years, and we definitely want to get that. And secondly, one of the big priorities I'm going into is hiring. So by the end of this month, we'll have posted about 3 positions, and certainly hope that you all will be able to help us recruit for those positions. 2 program managers, 1 program assistant, really focused on helping folks who understand provider and administrator experience and the capacity needs of providers across the region. So thank you.
Thanks, Cole. Hunter?
Oops.
There we go.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me. My name is Hunter Belgard, he, him, his. I am your regional data lead and have the wonderful work of being involved with HMIS, sometimes a four-letter word, Homeless Management Information System. I'm just really excited to bring some of my expertise and knowledge to move some data forward, maybe try to get some supportive housing service data flowing to Metro, and start to unpack all of the amazing work that's happening out there. And again, just thank you for having me and really excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. It looks like we have one person we missed online. So Chair Vega Pedersen, will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am driving a kiddo home right now, so I'll be online in about 15 minutes. But just wanted to introduce myself for folks. Jessica Vega Peterson, she, her pronouns, Multnomah County Chair. And the update I have is that I just got back yesterday from a trip to Washington, D.C. for the National Association of County Official Conference. But I did take the time while I was there to meet with USICH, which is the United States Intergovernmental Agency on Homelessness. And it was a really fantastic meeting. It was a really good chance to talk about all the work that we're doing in Multnomah County, but also in our region. And they're such a good resource. So I wanted to make sure that just shared that news, and they're always happy to be a resource and a partner as we're moving forward this work. And it was a good meeting, and they're excited about what we're doing here.
Thanks, Chair Vega Pedersen. Going ahead, I think Sahan, you hopped in. We're just doing a quick round of introductions. So.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sahan McKelvey, he, him, his, and Director of Community and Family Programs at SEI Self-Enhancement, Inc., and great to see you all.
Thanks so much. And Councillor Lewis, I'm not sure we caught your name on the mic, so maybe one more time.
For the record, Christine Lewis, pronouns like she and her, Metro Council.
Great. Okay, I think we've got everyone here. So now that we've done we've done the introductions, I'll just do a brief overview of the safety plan for those in the room. So just please note that we're on the 3rd floor of the building. In the event of a fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of this room, go down the steps to the 2nd floor, and exit through the main entrance by the reception desk. We will meet in the courtyard outside that entrance. Metro team, is there a specific place in the courtyard that we should look to meet?
Go ahead.
We would meet on the street on Grand outside of our main entrance while our plaza is under construction.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, Millie.
Fabulous. Okay. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify staff at the front desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. And a fire extinguisher is located in the corridor along the side of the dais just behind the wall. Just a few more bits of housekeeping before we get going. Please try to remember to have your mics off when not speaking and try to refrain from any side conversations. You can tell if your microphone is on if the red light is on. Also, for those in the room, please use your name card to enter the queue. For those online, we encourage you to keep your cameras on as best you're able. We want to make sure that the public can see you. And also, please be sure to keep your chat function set to everyone. To enter the queue, please raise your hand. I'm going to take a few seconds just to review the meeting agenda and reminder of the objectives for the meeting. I'm going to try to be pretty brief in all of my bits here today. We've got a lot to get through and some conversations that we want to have. So as we move through the agenda today, I'll try to do my best to remind everyone about how much time we have for each of these topics. And I hope you'll give us some grace if we have to kind of move along the conversation just so we make sure that we get through everything today. To start, we'll approve our December meeting summary. We'll introduce some new Metro staff, which we just did. We'll hold space for some public comments, then move into our more substantive items. We'll receive updates and information from staff, including the SHS audit. We'll hear from the counties on the work they've completed that's captured in the memo for regional landlord recruitment and retention recommendations, and we'll have a presentation on the work around the HMIS technology. Before we move forward, it looks like Nicole, you've entered, and just want to make sure you have an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hey, folks, apologies for being late. Nicole Sting, she, her pronouns with Washington County.
Great, welcome, Nicole. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass off to co-chairs Matt and Ebony to discuss the December meeting summary.
No discussion, but I'll move adoption.
Okay, do you have a second? Great. Okay, and Patricia, you've already introduced the new staff members. So we're going to create some space now for public comment. Folks should have received the written submission that we received from Andrew McGough. He's the Executive Director of Work Systems and the Portland Metro Workforce Development Board. Malia, did we receive any other written comments?
No, just that.
Great.
Is it in the packet?
I believe Andrew is here to do a public comment. If there's anyone else in the room who wishes to make a public comment today, would you please, in the back of the room, there's some blue cards, so if you have a chance to fill that out, I'll know that you're in the queue. We're trying to keep comments to about 3 minutes today since we have such a full agenda. And for those online, you can raise your hand if you would like to provide comment, and Ariella here can add you to the panelist list so you can make comment. So we'll go ahead and open it up to you, Andrew, for comments.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces. My name is Andrew McGough, and I'm the Executive Director of Work Systems, which is the Workforce Development Board that serves Washington and Multnomah counties. And I'm here to inform you about a new program to better organize regional efforts to connect people to work. As the Workforce Board, we are authorized by the governor in collaboration with local elected officials to invest and manage certain pots of federal and state resources to improve the quality of the regional workforce. We are not a direct service organization. Rather, we fund and coordinate services through a broad network of community-based public agency and education service providers. Bless you. Our resources are prioritized to serve people in poverty, including individuals experiencing housing instability or homelessness. Partners across our network work together towards the shared goal of helping people we serve to enter career track employment. Currently, we have over 40 funding streams and 30 partners, both from the community, education, and public agency levels, working together to build a better public workforce development system. Our model combines the cultural and population competencies of community-based organizations and connects them to state agency and education partners. The system served about 25,000 people last year. A few months ago, we were asked by the mayor's office to look for solutions to better connect houseless and formerly houseless residents to work. The city wanted us to look for ways to expand our model beyond traditional employment by including access to non-standard work. The city recognized that many people aren't ready or may never be ready for traditional employment and would benefit from access to non-standard work. Given our role, we have a clear understanding of how certain resources and partners are knit together to help transition low-income residents to traditional career track employment. We do not, however, directly engage with all the public investments being made to connect people to work, and especially non-standard work. But what if we were able to better organize all of our public investments intended to connect people to work? From a couple hours picking up trash to a wage subsidy to complete the final training needed to land a job with a local semiconductor manufacturer. And we work together to identify shared priorities, meet people where they are, increase opportunities, and build clear pathways for people to advance when they're ready. Flex PDX is a program to realize this vision, to align public investments, build clear, accessible pathways, and solve shared regional challenges. The key components to Flex PDX are work navigators, individuals, including those with lived experience, trained to agreed upon regional standards and based at community-based organizations around the region. Each manages a caseload of people needing help with labor market entry and early stage progression. A ladder of skills and work. Too often, people needing support come out of a program with skills and experience, but lack a connection to further work. We are assembling a comprehensive ladder of work from no barrier hourly work to licensed occupations. The goal is to build a skills and organizational progression for people to move through, entering at the appropriate level, organization and time, and moving up and over as skills and competencies are acquired. We also need an online platform. The Flex PDX platform aligns people with opportunity hour by hour, with each person in control of their availability, types of work, travel area, and other relevant parameters. Reporting. Flex PDX will generate granular reports on what is being spent, where activity such as city beautification is happening, what skills are being gained by the workers, and how many people are entering the labor market. We would be honored to offer an in-depth review of this initiative and consider ways we could work with the Tri-County Planning Body to implement and scale this model. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like we have anybody in the queue online to provide comments, and I haven't seen any other blue cards, so we'll go ahead and move forward. Up next, we have an update. We have the Supportive Housing Services audit. It's an opportunity for us to receive some information on the SHS audit. Brian, I think you're here with your team to provide it. Do you need a microphone? Oh, great.
Do you want this spot?
So for this section, we have about 10 minutes for the presentation. Patricia has a few comments to make, and then we'll have about 8 minutes for any kind of questions for Brian and his team.
Thank you for having some space on the agenda for us. Appreciate it. My name is Brian Evans. I'm the elected auditor here at Metro. I use he, him pronouns. I'm joined today. Sorry, what? Oh, I thought. On or off? Looks like it's on. Is it on?
That's on.
Okay. Thank you. Well, good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to present the results of our audit. My name is Brian Evans. I'm the Metro Auditor. I'm joined today by David Beller and Pawa Wanke, who worked on this audit. Gonna go ahead and launch into our presentation here. The purpose of this audit was to follow up on 2021 audit recommendations, as well as determine if there were gaps or overlaps in program governance, and determine if processes were sufficient to ensure accurate reporting on program performance. Before we discuss the results of the audit, I want to give you all a little bit of context. Some of you might be familiar with the auditor function at Metro, some maybe not, but Metro is one of several local governments in the region that has an elected auditor position, and the purpose of that position is to make sure that we can look at the efficiency, effectiveness of Metro's programs and services with an independence lens, and really take a view from the public's perspective. So performance audits are really more like program evaluation than what you might think of like IRS audits. So we're really looking at recommendations for efficiency, effectiveness, and equity in government programs. We're required to follow audit standards put out by the Government Accountability Office, and those require us to communicate with those charged with governance, which is an auditor term, which means the bodies that have oversight responsibility for a program or service. So for SHS, that's the Metro Council, who we presented the results to last month, this body, as well as the Regional Oversight Committee. And let's see, what else do I want to say about our process? Just anything else that you would want to know, any questions about our role before I talk about the audit itself? Seeing no hands raised, I'll keep going. Sounds like a packed agenda. So just as a reminder, probably doesn't need, for this group, since you're well in the weeds of this measure, but as a reminder for some of the key elements of the regional SHS program, voters approved new business and personal income taxes in May of 2020. The goal was to raise about $250 million annually to provide rental assistance and services to reduce the number of people experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. 75% of the funds were required to be spent on people experiencing frequent or long-term periods of homelessness. That's known as Population A. And so the other 25% was dedicated to folks that were at risk of experiencing homelessness, which is known as Population B. Each county was required to maintain pre-measure funding levels so that the new taxes were not to be supplemented for existing resources for these services. Since the SHS tax went into effect, about $592 million has been collected. And as you know, spending has not quite matched the revenue available during the first 3 years of the program. As a result, about 40% of the tax revenue has been spent, which has resulted in about $354 million in a fund balance as of June 30th, 2023. Now moving into the audit results, we found that Metro made progress on three of the three recommendations that we made in May of 2021. That was our first early implementation look at this audit, or this program. One was fully implemented and 2 were in process. We found that additional work on the first in-process recommendation will be critical to create a performance measure system that provides reliable and relevant information about program outcomes. And further oversight of administrative spending by the Regional Oversight Committee would help fully implement the second recommendation. The audit also identified opportunities to strengthen oversight by reducing duplication in some areas and clearly assigning responsibility in others. As you know, regional oversight of this program is a shared responsibility. When multiple parties have broad responsibility over a program, there's always a risk that some responsibilities could be duplicated and others could be overlooked. Specifying how each role relates to the others and what timelines are needed to ensure timely alignment among them would enhance program oversight. Although the performance measurement system has improved since 2021, there were variations in definitions, reports, and calculations that made it difficult to understand how the program had progressed. Ensuring reports are accurate and complete is an important element of public accountability. In addition, Metro will use monthly and quarterly data to monitor compliance with any corrective action plans, so data reliability is also important to make sure those agreements are followed. And reliability is probably most important also for this group that's charged with creating a regional plan and fostering coordination between the counties. And so one of the points in the audit is that starting to think about the long-term plan now will be important to kind of have a data-informed framework to look at the renewal of the program should it come up when the taxes are set to sunset in 2030. I'm going to stop there and let David and Pawa talk a little bit more in depth about each of the findings of the audit, and then hopefully have some time for questions and answers.
Thank you, Auditor Evans. My name is Pawa Wantke, pronouns he, him, and I'll just jump right in. To start, we identified some opportunities to clarify responsibilities between oversight parties. So this includes clarifying council's role in the oversight process, then ensuring that reporting timelines are aligned with that. Quarterly reports, and annual work plans are all opportunities to give more frequent updates to council on program progress. We also found that establishing a more specific definition for material deviations where the corrective action plans are concerned will help set consistent expectations ahead of time and ensure that each county is held to the same standard. Intergovernmental agreements specify that Metro and the counties will establish a process to review the allocation of funds after fiscal year 22-23, and we did not find any indication that this had occurred yet. Although funding was initially allocated based on estimated revenue, the IGAs may leave room to reevaluate the basis for funding allocation, which may be important to ensure long-term success, given that most of the homelessness is concentrated in Multnomah County. And they only receive about 45% of the funding. With regards to the Regional Oversight Committee, we found opportunities to refine the committee's focus and membership. The ballot measure states the Regional Oversight Committee is responsible for reviewing administrative spending and making recommendations to Metro Council. Our review found that the ROC did not appear to evaluate administrative spending. For example, we did not find evidence of discussion around the fact that Multnomah County and Clackamas County both exceeded their recommended administrative spending limits for the first year of the program. In some cases, this lack of discussion may have been due to incomplete or missing information. For instance, Washington County did not include any information on administrative spending in the first year report. In other cases, the committee just didn't seem to be aware of the responsibility. Though the responsibility appears in the ballot measure, it is not explicitly identified in the Regional Oversight Committee's charter. At times, the committee seemed to spend too much time on some topics that may have been better suited for other oversight bodies. Time spent on these topics could have limited discussion on core oversight responsibilities, such as reviewing administrative spending. As administrative costs could total somewhere between $200 and $429 million over the life of the program, it is crucial that there is a consistent, independent process to review this spending. In spite of adhering to criteria from the ballot measure, we found that 70% of ROC members were affiliated with the supportive housing field, including being employed by or serving on the boards of entities that receive SHS program funding. More diverse representation within the committee can ensure that the ROC continues to provide independent oversight of the program. Moving on to the performance management system, we found that there were some gaps. We found some gaps to address as the program develops. First, the system lacks the ability to measure quality of services and the efficiency of funds. By only measuring the quantity of people served, the system could be incentivizing programs to provide low-quality service in higher numbers. Some measures that could address this, such as retention or returns to homelessness, are expected to appear in annual reports going forward, but have not consistently done so up until this point. We found some inconsistencies with the reporting that made progress difficult to understand. The language used to describe overarching program goals has both been inconsistent and unclear. The language varies between sources, and it's unclear how the goals align with either program types or populations A and B. We also found that the use of the term housing placements may obscure progress because in some cases, housing placements was defined as including permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing. In other cases, it only seemed to include permanent supportive housing. Combining these two distinct service types into a single metric, it may cause unnecessary confusion, particularly because these two program types may serve different populations. Finally, we also found some inconsistencies in data definitions used by the SHS templates. Staff indicated that they were using HUD data definitions, but the language used by SHS templates seemed to be inconsistent with HUD definitions. These inconsistencies could result in inconsistent reporting between counties, or for the same county between HUD and SHS reports. And I will now pass to my colleague, David.
My name is David Beller, he, him. The procedures to ensure data reliability were underdeveloped, and the data in quarterly reports appeared to be regularly incomplete or inconsistent. In fiscal year 22-23, as of the third quarter, 2/3 of the data points we analyzed contained inconsistencies between the individual quarters and the year-to-date total, and these differences were as high as 53%. By the end of the fourth quarter, counties had reconciled the inconsistencies in the data. This suggested that they had methods in place to provide consistent totals by year end. However, without consistent and complete data in quarterly reports, the program appeared to lack a mechanism to monitor progress throughout the program year. Stronger quality control processes are needed to ensure quarterly reports are as accurate and consistent as possible. The three counties do not appear to be using the same methodology to calculate who was served in each of the priority population groups. Clackamas County reported serving significantly higher proportions of population A than Multnomah and Washington counties. This suggested that the counties may be using different assumptions in how they make categorizations within population data. Metro's population definitions are distinct but could be interpreted similarly. Population A includes an imminent risk of homelessness, while population B includes a substantial risk. An important role for Metro is to ensure that counties use similar enough data reporting methods that the data can be aggregated to report the overall impacts to the public. Another way county data may not be comparable is how non-SHS funded services are reported. Certain counties' reports included services provided by non-SHS funds, while others did not. This could be misleading to the public about the impacts and efficiency of SHS funds. Multnomah County's fiscal year 23-24 budget showed it expects about 45% to come from SHS. Multnomah County utilized non-metro funds to help exceed their eviction prevention goals. If services provided by non-SHS funds are reported, it would overstate SHS program performance. Looking ahead, serving people experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness will require long-term planning. Successfully meeting program goals could result in the need to provide ongoing support for at least 5,000 individuals. Some portion of individuals may require SHS services for the rest of their lives. County's data show that people experiencing homelessness report health conditions which may limit their ability to move towards independence. Understanding the cost to provide services for individuals with these needs will be critical to design an effective response. Research shows the challenges of providing emergency rental assistance to the people with the greatest need. One study showed that participants who sought short-term rental assistance sometimes became homeless, whether or not funding for services was available. Short-term rental assistance may not necessarily target people who would become homeless without the assistance. The findings of the research contrasts with Metro's reporting, which suggests that eviction prevention is synonymous with preventing homelessness. SHS reports should be careful about the language used to describe program outcomes. Research on shelters should suggest that certain types of shelters are less effective. Shelter arrangements that offer individual sleeping arrangements called non-congregate shelters have multiple documented benefits. Data collection on non-congregate versus congregate shelter would provide valuable indicators of shelter quality. This could help ensure SHS funds are used for shelters with the highest acceptance rates. I'll pass back to Auditor to conclude. Thanks.
Great. So those are all the findings, and the report also included 18 recommendations. 7 were designed to ensure timely and ongoing program oversight. 6 focused on improving the data reliability and consistency of program performance reports. And the other 5 were targeted at identifying programs that provide the most efficient, effective, and equitable services to inform long-term plans for the program. I want to thank Metro's COO, Patricia Rojas, the Housing Director, and their teams for their assistance during the audit. I'd like to thank David and Paula for taking on this audit topic. We'd be happy to answer any questions, or I don't know if Patricia has a response first. That's usually the order we go in, but happy to answer any questions at whatever time.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Auditor Evans and team, for your work, the time, effort, and for the information that's come out of this effort. In your, not in your packet, but in your email committee, you will find not only the report itself, but a response from management that's robust and very thorough, addressing each one of the recommendations, as well as many of the themes broadly spoken to in the report. You'll see in our response that Metro largely agrees with many of the findings that the auditor pointed out. As you well know, we're at year 2.5 of launching this 10-year initiative that is starting with 3 different institutions, 3 different continuums of care and types of practices that are happening in each county. So there are 3 different circumstances that we're bringing together as one region to create a regional system of care. And so due to that, it is going to take time to do many of these areas, and what we found with the report, and we speak to in our response, is that many of the areas that the auditor spoke to have pathways that we've been working on, such as monitoring, program evaluation, that our IGA speaks to for beginning in year 3, which is where we are. And I think part of our commitment has always been process improvement, and that is a commitment that Metro has made in collaboration with our county partners and Metro Council. So I will just say, I don't want to belabor this conversation. I want to leave room for your conversation. And the response that we provided is very comprehensive. So I point you to that document to read. If you haven't already, it makes wonderful nighttime reading.
Thank you, Patricia. So we just have a few minutes here for questions. Does anyone have a question for Brian and his team? Must have done a very thorough job, so appreciate that. Oh, please.
I'm just curious on the definition between population A and B. Are we feeling that using the words imminent and substantial are too close together when we're talking about what pot of money a person's going to be placed in? I think about it from a case manager's perspective. There's a lot of subjectivity that goes into making that call, and it feels like a lot of folks could really move from substantial to eminent really easy because they feel close together when folks are trying to make that classification.
Thanks for the question. I think the way you described it is probably similar to the way we see it in that we try to put ourselves in the decision maker's point of view or thinking about how you aggregate up reporting. And so having definitions that are clear and consistent or at least help folks navigate between gray areas that words look relatively the same, and depending on the day, you might feel it's more imminent or more substantial. So really that's the intent, is to keep that focus on can you set the standards such that you have a good deciding line between, should I allocate population B money to this, or is this a population A kind of situation? And I think we've heard feedback that some things change, and some clients and people move between those two. And so how do you deal with that variation over time or subjectivity between decision makers?
Great, and Steve, it looks like you have a question?
Yeah, thanks for the audit, and I think it's helpful to get some objective lens to look at where we are. This is a pretty complex program, right? And I believe that it's really about systems integration and alignment. So the question when you said that, sometimes can you tell whether SHS did it or not? To me, that's part of the challenge we have, is that we have all these cylinders and silos, and in order to really fully serve somebody, we need to align them. So there could be small amounts of SHS that are critically important for gap filling to make sure programs work for the people we're trying to serve. So I'm just trying to make sure that I understand we need to be clear about where the dollars are going, but in my sense, we're trying to be out of the box. This is something different we've never tried before. And so I really hope that we can really look at that we have enough resources for a change to really look at systems alignment and integration. Very difficult concepts, but this thing could succeed. It will take time. And I think we have a lot of the elements. I think the report's helpful. Thank you.
Thanks. I don't know if you want me to respond to that first point. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Fabulous. Okay, any other questions? Any questions online? Okay, well, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
we'll go
the
ahead
time.
and move on to the next topic. Before we do, Nicole Larson, I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to introduce yourself and provide any updates if you have them.
Hi, everyone. Nicole Larson, she, her pronouns. I'm city liaison for Imago Dei Community and a licensed clinical social worker.
Great, welcome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move forward into the regional landlord recruitment and retention update. The objective here is for the TCB to discuss and either approve or request edits on the county's report. I'm going to give just a really short reminder of what the process was getting to this point from how I understand it. Then I'll pass off to you, Nicole, to give your presentation. We've blocked about 14 minutes for your presentation, and then we have about 25 minutes on the agenda for this conversation. So just as a reminder, in the December meeting, the TCBB engaged in a prioritization exercise or survey for the recommendations-focused strategies that TCBB members put forth. After discussion and voting, the TCPB approved moving forward with all 12 recommendations. The next steps were for county staff to take and review the 12 recommendations and to develop them into a proposal. The counties drafted a proposal, which you should have all received in your meeting packet, that outlines which strategies they would and would not prioritize into developing the implementation plans. This proposal was received by Metro, and it has considered feedback provided by Metro staff. So today, we are reviewing and discussing this memo. So Nicole, I'll go ahead and pass off to you for your presentation.
Thank you, and hey again, folks. Exciting to be here at the moment of what is the first county proposal we're bringing forward to the TCBB. I apologize, as I turn my head, I realize the mic might not be catching me, so I will look straight ahead. When we set out to develop the proposal, we looked both at the November focus point strategies memo and consider the conversations the TCPB has had collectively on this goal, and brought that information to our landlord liaisons. Now, these are the folks working within the counties that are leading this work, and we felt it important to have their voice and expertise built into our understanding. They're working directly with our providers. They understand what's happening on the ground. So we leveraged our experts to develop some recommendations that then were elevated up through the counties, where our county departmental leadership was able to help identify certain proposals that could move forward. Now, there's 5 of those proposals. I do want to note there's multiple activities within each of those. So within one proposal might include multiple things that were recommended in the focus strategies memo, and we'll get into those in a moment. Once we had clarity from our county departmental leadership, we were able to draft this memo in January and work in iterative feedback and in partnership with Metro to bring in additional TCPB voices from the conversations you've had with Metro staff. And on the next slide, we'll just quickly ground ourselves on the goal we're talking about. We all know how vital it is to have unit access to get folks off the street. It makes sense that this is one of 6 goals that this body has advanced. And as we look forward to advancing on this goal, the memo of recommendations, proposals that we've brought forward is really focused on what can we do in the near term? What are some immediate actions we can take to advance these goals, while considering there might be longer term or additional activities that we could build on in future years. So we took a look of what is possible within the next year, and use that as kind of an internal filtering criteria for us as we considered what the system had a capacity to move forward. In addition to that, understanding that there are great ideas that we just don't all as a system have the capacity to advance. So the next slide, as you consider the recommendations and the individual investments we're proposing, I would also encourage you all to consider the filtering criteria. Looks a little fuzzy on that screen, much more clear to read on the other screens there. So I hope you all kind of keep this in the back of your head as we go through both these slides today, and then also in the future when we've developed formal implementation plans. Would love your feedback and expertise in reviewing that as well. With that brief intro, I'm going to pass things over to Fahid Brown, who will talk about regionalism and begin to explain some of the proposals we've brought forward.
Thank you, Nicole. And this should be familiar, though it's in a slightly different infographic form. We discussed this in December at the TCPB, kind of 3 broad areas or categories, types, methods by which the region can regionalize the activities that we're undertaking and the work we're doing to forward the goals established by the TCPB. Policy, programmatic, and administrative kind of consolidation or regionalism. And in each of the proposals, the 5 proposals that the counties put forward here in this memo, we identify what type of regionalism the proposal embodies or helps to further achieve. Really briefly, since we did discuss these in December, policy, regionalism along the axis of policy is kind of establishing shared regional standards in policies and procedures for the programs or services that we deliver. Examples there could be the risk mitigation program, where the 3 counties all administer that program with the same policies and standards for fee schedules and so forth, and what constitutes a claim and how much is the risk mitigation program going to pay for a claim. We've established those programmatic policies regionally. Programmatic regionalism, is centralization of a programmatic function within one county, and it entails some policy and administrative consolidation. The point in time count, is an example there where that was conducted through a contract held by Multnomah County with PSU and the Homelessness Research and Action Collaborative, and support and focus strategies to conduct the January 2023 regional point in time count. And administrative consolidation or regionalism. This could be centralizing a function, an administrative function, like the procurement and management of a contract for a service that provides regional services to the entire region. The Tri-Counties RFPQs are an example of an regional administrative consolidation, where one county's staff conducted most of the work to administer that procurement and take on the administrative burden of an activity that all of the counties and the region as a whole benefited from. So in each of these recommendations, we identify which type of regionalism is being advanced. In the next slide, this is just kind of a transition slide to introduce, as I said, the 5 proposals that we're putting forward here to further the goal of the TCPB. These are proposals that we think we can move on immediately and quickly, and will help the region forge better partnerships with housing providers, otherwise known as landlords, and assist our contracted providers and the households that they serve, quickly identify and access housing units in the community. The first of them, in the next slide, is a communication and education plan. When the county's staffs and our regional landlord liaison staffs were looking at the various strategies that we could pursue to advance this goal, this one rose to the top pretty easily and quickly as a shared #1 priority across the region. All of our providers, all of our caseworkers, all of the folks that are walking alongside people experiencing homelessness, looking for a place to use their tenant voucher, their rental assistance to end their homelessness, they're having to kind of recapitulate the same story over and over again about what are the benefits and resources that the Regional Long-Term Rent Assistance Program, the various incentives associated with it, the risk mitigation program. There's a lot of information, and it's up to each case manager to raise awareness at each landlord and property management company about, look, this is a good idea. This is a good voucher for this rent assistance and the services that come with it are a good thing for this property. And we think that we can, achieve a lot and take this a lot further, having a regional approach that really invests in kind of a communication consultant and some marketing strategies to help our entire region's multifamily property owners and landlords understand what it is, the Regional Long-Term Rent Assistance Program, its incentives, the risk mitigation program, the coupling of rent assistance with supportive services, what those can mean for the stability of their tenants and the certainty they have with respect to rent and their protection from risk. So that's #1. And there's further details on each of these in your memo. #2 is to align the financial incentives. In this proposal, we aim to explore where this could be done, what would be the cost implications, and really, develop and implement a series of trainings to ensure that our case managers understand the various incentives that are offered under our programs across the region. We would integrate this with our, the first goal, the communications and education plan with landlords, and really begin to understand what would be the implications and impacts. We all administer a lot of tenant assistance of a lot of types. The Housing Choice Voucher in the region serves many, many thousands of households. So we need to dig into the details about the different sorts of incentives that we might expand, where we might expand them, and what programs should fall under the coverage of those incentives. That's #2. And for the next one, I'm going to turn it over to Multnomah County. Kanoi? Or Brianna, or both.
Thanks, Vahid. Appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. And thank you so much for talking about the aligning financial incentives piece. Just really excited about being able to bring forth these potential projects for us to be able to move forward in this regional level. So just really appreciate your time and attention to these items. One thing that I'll mention too, when it comes to the previous slide, if we can go back just for a second, because I had a couple notes on this, but one of the things we want to look at is really expanding the incentives feasibility and what that means on a broader level. So, right, we are really committing here to taking that training on the existing incentives to broaden the current infrastructure that we have and make sure that there's that uniform message being shared across the region. And then another piece of it that's been uplifted by folks in our landlord liaison space is we would like the opportunity to dive deeper and see what the feasibility is of what these incentives could look like across different housing programs. So that's not saying there's definite movement happening there, but that's just saying that we would like to take a deeper look at this as Focus Strategies reports named that some of the nationally, some of the most effective systems on unit acquisition include some of those financial incentives across different types of rental assistance. So just wanted to name that. And thank you, Vahid. I really appreciate that. If we can go ahead and go to the next one, I can definitely share more on this. So the other proposal that we're bringing forward here is related to tracking and access to unit inventory. So just to do some initial framing into this topic here. So in the report provided by Focus Strategies, the consolidation of tracking and providing access to unit inventory was shared as a potential area of exploration for the counties. So the addition of the centralized tracking is really to create a centralized platform that eases the burden from community-based organizations that place folks into housing without having there being a sole reliance on those folks having to leverage their personal connections with landlords to be able to do so. So it's important to note though, while we are proposing this, we are not saying that this would negate any of the relationship building that folks have done or get rid of that. But furthermore, just create another opportunity for folks to have a centralized system to be able to do that. So what we're proposing today is once the Tri-County folks came together, again, with feedback from our leadership and landlord liaison group, we see an opportunity within Multnomah County to be able to take a look at this. So within Multnomah County, we are contracting with Housing Connector, and we're looking to pilot this experience to learn and develop a deeper understanding of what this platform or what this type of platform could look like within our region. Again, we don't, we want to reserve the opportunity to be able to look at this a little bit further and see what the implications are, what barriers come up, what successes, what things are happening that we can learn from and either grow from and try to adapt, or ways that we need to shift that focus. So to give a little bit of a starter of what we're thinking. So, right, we're currently contracting with Housing Connector in Multnomah County. And this is through our Housing Multnomah Now landlord engagement work. So through this current partnership, Housing Connector has been building up a team to recruit, train, and centralize the unit acquisition that we see within our county. And the Tri-County effort here proposes to utilize the regional implementation funds to support this continued partnership with Housing Connector. Again, so we can learn and evaluate the results by the end of fiscal year 2025. And these results from the pilot within Multnomah County will then be shared, and then the Tri-Counties will discuss, like I said, the potential barriers of expanding the platform or possible opportunities for us to be able to enhance things as we move along. So just to give a brief update on the current state of where we are with this, since this has been happening over the past few months within the county, there are currently 10 property managers that have a maximum of 1,058 units, between them. And currently there's 54 units that are available on the platform. And so this investment in this pilot would allow us to expand this work with the intention of yielding the results that would have implications for the further regional work. So right now we're doing this in a bit of a silo. And so this would open us up to be able to evaluate what that would look like on that broader scale. And that's what I have for there. So we can go ahead and move to the next one. And Vahid, is it back to you?
Back to me.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. So our next proposal involves quality problem-solving services. You might remember from the memo and from the previous report from Focus Strategies. This is about services that can be in response to landlord or housing provider needs when there is an urgent issue, a crisis, some challenge with respect to the tenants that they're experiencing, that may go beyond the typical scope of work of a supportive housing case manager. Just to give you an example that might illustrate this, a tenant receiving an ARLA voucher in a multifamily situation might be in conflict with their neighbor, and that may require some mediation. That the property management is not the best, kind of agent to conduct that mediation. And the ARLA recipient's case manager also may not be the best person. They're the advocate for that tenant. They're not a We don't want them to be an impartial person with respect to that tenant and the success of their tenancy. So that case manager would need an ROI from their client and from the neighbor to talk about this, so this could become a complicated situation for a case manager, but it's not necessarily an uncommon thing in a multifamily context where there might be a disagreement or a conflict between neighbors. And there's a need for the landlord or the property management to say, hey, we need some support here. This is challenging us. So this is a pilot that Clackamas County is proposing to launch that would, create a hotline for landlords to call, and ideally a 24/7 service that a landlord could reach out and say, there's an issue, we're looking for support. And there may be some specialty services subcontracted as part of this pilot that would be available to landlords and the households they serve in their multifamily units. Things like hoarding mitigation, or as I said, mediation of conflicts between tenants and such like. So we're proposing to pilot this as a model that could potentially be regionalized, pending the findings of how successful this might be in helping our tenants be successful and growing our ability to partner successfully with landlords. Next slide. And I think this one's back to Nicole.
It is. And sorry, folks, thanks for dealing with the back and forth between presenters. We kept it in order of the memo, so you're able to reference that memo. I'll go ahead and close it out with the last recommendation, and it's one I've heard about in this space and from a lot of folks on the TCPB, really acknowledging that there are property management needs, both for kind of permanent supportive housing and for affordable housing to help increase the competency and reliability of property management, ensure that our property management partners are mission-driven and aligned, headed on the same path as we are. So our recommendation in conversations with Valeria is that Metro lead this work and take on funding a study in collaboration with the state partners, with county partners, to identify what possible government interventions or other interventions could exist to support property management needs across our system. Again, focused on particularly the needs for permanent supportive housing and the needs for affordable housing more broadly. For the sake of time, I'll go ahead and jump to our last few slides to leave some space for discussion here. What we're recommending is about $7.2 to $7.5 million from the RIF. I want to call out this is a little higher than what we had in the memo. I'll own I mistakenly left out Multnomah County's RMP amount, Risk Mitigation Fund amount that's been added in. That's the difference you'll see from this in your memo. The exact costs we're not quite sure of. We have some assumptions built in to these figures, but to determine the full cost of what it would take to move forward these various initiatives at the pilot stage and at the stages we just walked through, we would need to collaboratively develop implementation plans, understand timelines, and potentially even develop scopes of work with consultants. So we're a bit a ways before we have that final investment amount. And we want to make sure that we have the ability to support the work underway that is in alignment with this goal. So that does, of course, include the Risk Mitigation Fund and also expanding and supporting our landlord liaisons work and building those direct relationships with landlords in our community. And as I've mentioned at the top, I'll reiterate again, this is really a first step to this work. We have well, maybe not a first step, maybe a second step. We've been on this work for a while, but it's a way for us to bring forward some of this work. It's not the end of this conversation as it relates to these proposals, and it's not the end of the conversation as it relates to the other proposals that are not included in this initial set. On the next slide, just want to bring us forward with questions and give that underscore that process reminder that we do have a lot of work left to do to build those implementations plans. It's going to need to happen in partnership with Metro and with the counties, likely with our service providers and communities as well. So with that, I'll leave it there. Happy to engage in dialogue.
Great, thanks so much. So we've just got a few minutes for clarifying questions, and we want to use the next couple of minutes for just sort of singularly clarifying questions, and then I'll go ahead and pass to the co-chairs for comments, and then we'll open it up for a sort of discussion on how to move forward. So any clarifying questions? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one. Could someone provide a definition of block leasing from the county's perspective?
Of what?
Block leasing?
Seeing if anyone wants to jump in first. I'll attempt, and others feel free to correct me or add on details. Block leasing is also often referred to in multiple things. You might hear it as agency leasing or master leasing. It's the idea that a service provider would lease a block of units and have them available for their clients, their population that they're serving, and that the lease would already be set. They would be available and ready when folks walk through the door.
Yeah, that's what I was curious why, what the reasoning is from the counties that they're not interested in looking at block leasing.
Yeah, I'll address a portion of that and invite others as well to address it. I from my own experience, I have seen block leasing to be helpful in some situations, but when working with populations with high acuity, the relationship with the landlord can be challenging, and there could be additional requirements of vetting and reviewing tenants as they come in. So with a high acuity population, it hasn't been as successful as I've personally seen. I know other counties have various experiences with it. It's not something that's off the list, but not on the list for this next year.
Yeah, so with that, is that also under the consideration of block leasing with community-based organizations who are operating those units and taking care of the folks that have high acuity that are called out that need to be, there's another population, the super high acuity folks. So block leasing or capacity-based payment to purchase multiple units that the community-based organization is managing rather than a straight-up landlord. So I feel like there's room, Bridges of Change does it, we have, 600 beds that is essentially block leasing from the counties, and we're managing those programs. So leaving that part out, I think, misses the opportunity as called out here to serve folks with that higher acuity. I know that the counties are wanting to look into respite sites, more transitional and supportive housing, but I think if we're leaving out the ability to master lease with organizations, we're missing a part there.
But, dang, can I ask a clarifying question? As I understand it, block leasing can still be pursued by the counties. It's just that they're not, at this stage, they're not recommending that we regionalize block leasing. Am I correct in my understanding?
Yes, thank you for the assist, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you for that clarification.
Great.
there's a lot here. Can I ask a question?
Please, Chair.
So I appreciate that in your slides and in the layout and the changing of speakers, I have no problem with at all. I will say I have a really hard visual time with gray being used in the slides. So I have to really work at that versus black. In the memo, I appreciate with the slides, the estimate for investment that you're recommending to TCBP is anywhere from 7.2 million to 7.5 million. And that the account currently has anywhere from 37 to 49 that I was able to make out in the footnote. I don't know, so this is the first, isn't this the first of the 5 goals where we've seen this level of detail plan? But I know that like consultants are being used for different ones. So I'm just wondering if across the 5 different goals, if the team has looked at any sense for, kind of like high, medium, and low, because we have the Regional Investment Fund today. We've finally defined all these goals, right? May of last year. Thank you for reminding me. And now staff across Metro and the 3 counties are doing the heavy lifting of defining plans for pursuing these, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm wondering as a member, I can sit here and go, okay, given the scope of this work, I'm comfortable with pursuing that, but are we going to end up with similar amounts across all 5? Or has the staff at all thought, well, yes, they'll all involve money, but this one might be money-wise a bigger one? I don't know how we're working that out, so I figured I'd ask.
I want to acknowledge Ebony has her hand up, but I had a
Great.
response to the chair.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and give your response, and then Ebony will hop over to you for your question?
Ebony, do you mind if I respond to the chair before we move to you? Okay, thank you so much. I don't know that I have an answer for you exactly today, but I will say that what you're raising for me just really underscores an opportunity for Metro to partner with the counties to understand what regionalization what the impacts of that will be, whether that be fiscally, programmatically, infrastructurally. And so that is a role that we will be leaning in a lot more with the counties in partnership to see how we can be that connective tissue that we've been talking about this whole time. And that's part of where, in my mind, like I don't necessarily see that yet, right? I don't see that level of detail to answer your question, right? So we don't have that answer. And so it was really helpful to see this memo come in from counties for us to take a look at and see, this is your starting place, this is what you're thinking about, this is what you see as a priority and opportunity. And I think for us, how we are thinking about it is picking it up from here and figuring out how we bring our staffing capacity, expertise, and some more support to the work with the counties to be able to actually build out some implementation plans and understand the implications of some of the questions like the one you're asking. So I think that's one of many pieces that we absolutely need to consider from an equity perspective, from just a regional infrastructure perspective. And I think that Metro can be very helpful as a partner in leading that work.
I can keep going as to why I had this question if you want, but I don't want to forestall Co-Chair Brown.
Co-Chair, did you want to ask your question, and then we can return to this conversation?
Yeah, if you wanted to finish your thought, I'm okay. I just had a clarifying question for the county, so is this a thought that you want to finish, Harrington?
She says if there's a thought that you'd like to finish. Okay. Yeah.
So we have these 5 goals, right? We went through setting the goal stage. Now progress is being made. I appreciate the monthly goal summary sheet because it reports to me not just on what's the major activity going on, but what are the outputs that we're starting to see leading towards the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve. I find myself thinking about the fact that the 3 counties are delivering services for people now with service providers. When I say counties, I mean with the service providers always. We continue to do hiring, capacity building, you name it. So there's the delivery of the current services. Then we have this other layer, an important one for regionalism, and good progress is being made. I also put in my mind, okay, we're going to want to be able to, in my mind, I may be on my own, we're going to want to have results, right, of our regionalism every single year, just like we talk about our service delivery progress every single year. And so I'm mindful of we're halfway through year 3, and how can we at least have a draft description of what we're aiming for the end of year 3 from TCBP and regionalism, and keep going with all of these 5 different goal programs so that we're able to communicate to the Metro Council, to the voters, community at large, of how we're making progress. And I don't know, Patricia, if I'm just making this stuff up or if I'm in line with the way it's imagined to be. Because I remember Co-Chair Chapman talking about this iterative approach. So this proposal seems clear to me, seems like a good approach of where they're piloting certain things, totally diving in and regionalizing other aspects of this, and let's just push and go and iterate from there.
Okay.
But I'm a risk taker, so maybe I'm on my own.
All right. Seems like there's a couple of proposals out there. Ebony, I wanted to go ahead and pass to you to get your clarifying question.
Yeah, I just had a clarifying question about amongst like what is the timeline looking like for getting to the other recommendations? And like also to get some insight on why those weren't brought to the table, like all those recommendations weren't brought to the table today.
Thank you for that question. I will attempt to address it and then invite other colleagues to jump in as needed. So frankly, as to the chair's point, you know, we have 5 very important goals to think about. There was 12 recommendations within this one goal. We wanted to be mindful and leave space within the county's work and within the work of our partners to include other recommendations from other goals. So that was a key piece of making sure we had the space to live up to the commitments we're making and what we're bringing forward to you all. So we're hoping to work on this, get a implementation plan hopefully in June. We haven't done this before, so that timing might change, and that this would be our plan for the year ahead, and that in a year from now, we would revisit the goals and see, are there additional things we can pick up, additional recommendations we should make based on what we've learned from this first set of recommendations. I want to leave space if there are others from the counties that want to jump in, and Co-Chair Brown, please let me know if that did not answer your question.
It partially answered my question, but also seeing like what is the plan. I understand like re-evaluating and seeing what additional goals or, you know, things we might want to implement later, but also like what about the goals that we've already decided on that were not captured in this proposal? Like what are the plans for those?
Oh, I love that question. So I think part of it will be, and I see others from Washington County eager to jump in as well as Brianna. So part of that will be developing similar proposals for the other goals. And I will pause and let county colleagues jump in.
Brianna, it looks like your hand is up.
Sorry, if there were folks in the room who raised before, feel free to go. But I was just wanting to speak a little bit on that, Ebony, about, you know, kind of how we, not so much on the current question, but previously, I think part of the reasoning that we came to as the counties is we were presented with those, you know, 12 recommendations of things we could pursue. And with those 5, we've created really 5 strong recommendations that we can move with at the pace that we would like to be able to present something to y'all. And so gives us the ability to have that quicker impact while also evaluating not only the quicker impact for the TCPB in alignment with what's been presented, but also for folks in the community and being able to see that impact as well. So just wanted to share that insight. I don't know if that really answers the current question, but just wanted to share that.
Great. Oh, great. And I just wanted to quick time check. We're running a little over, so I just wanted to clarify that these hands ups are clarifying questions before we move into the discussion. So go ahead, Nicole. Larson.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Mine is really along the same vein, but more of a process-oriented question around the RIF. I am not understanding how we are going to utilize the RIF and allocate funding toward each of the goal implementation areas. I would find it challenging to hear a proposal of a certain amount of money to go to just one goal without having that contextually up against the other goals and an implementation plan there. So I'm wondering if there is a process in place to be able to present all of the goal areas and a potential amount of money from the RIF to each of those areas, because if we have a limited amount of funds to be spent, it seems only natural that we would look at each goal implementation area to be able to evaluate that as a good amount of funding.
Nicole, thanks for your question. It wouldn't be a TCPP meeting without a question from Nicole Lawson about the RIF. But that's a really good question. And currently, just to give you the clarity of where it stands, this committee's decided to do this work iteratively. There's some risk involved with that because each of the bodies of work will require different processes and will come back to the committee at different times. And so the risk there is exactly what you and Chair Harrington called out earlier, which is how do we have line of sight of this pot of money? So the committee's going to have to discuss this, and if we continue the way we're going right now, we will have an implementation plan or / plans from the counties on this landlord recruitment piece with budgets that the TCPB will have to approve. And at that point, you are going to have to think about, well, are some of these approvals one-time only? Is it a one-time only study? Does that money come back ongoing next year? But these are going to be the questions that are going to come up if we continue the way that we're going, which was a conscious decision that the TCPB made at the very beginning here. And so I think it's worthy of discussion. I also want to put on the table for future discussion that our staff, Valeria's team, can develop criteria in partnership with you and the county staff that could help create more line of sight and help ask the right questions as a tool.
Great. Looks like we have time for maybe one more question. So Zoe, I see your hand up there.
More than a well, I do have a question, but as a service provider and having, you know, a big caseload of participants' house, to me, this is crucial. Like if we can start it to have, we need landlords to be our allies now. We need that education of everything that they can benefit from also, because we are having participants that are losing the stability with the ARLA voucher, and there's not that education in place yet with the landlords. Engagement, sometimes with the case management, it's not there yet, so we need the landlords to understand how important is that support that they can give us. And my question with the pilot that Clackamas is going to do about the needs of landlords, I was wondering, sometimes when we have no big developments, but you know, the mop and pop unit that doesn't pass inspection, that we can support with some financial support to provide that assistance of the little things that that unit needs in order to pass that inspection and to have a unit that is affordable. I mean, you know, that provide good quality of living to the participants. Because we are also encountering those barriers with landlords that, you know, unfortunately doesn't pass inspection, and they do not have the financial needs to do those little repairs. And the unit works for the participants and everything else, good location, close to, you know, transportation and that, but unfortunately, there are things that, you know, that landlord doesn't have the finance needs to repair. And I don't know if that is part of the pilot that you guys are going to try.
Thank you, Zoe. In Clackamas County, with our regional long-term assistance program and our landlord liaison program, we already are doing that when we have a landlord, like a smaller landlord with someone's gone through the process where we've attempted to make a housing placement, and there's a challenge with the inspection. Then we will offer incentives to that landlord to get the unit up to housing quality standards for it to be able to pass the inspection. And I think that's a great idea in terms of assessing that as part of the alignment conversation and that goal of aligning the financial incentives. That's probably where we would see that one being explored. But yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for that. And I see that there are some more questions at the table, and I also want to keep an eye on the time. We have another HMIS technology update, so I want to make sure we've got time for that. So I'm hoping right now we can do a quick touch base with the co-chairs, Matt and Ebony. I think that they had a couple of comments they wanted to make, and then I think we'll have just a few more minutes for discussion, and then we're going to go ahead and move, if that's all right with folks.
Yeah, is this on? Okay, so this is a big topic. And one of the things that in trying to prep for how we might be able to handle it, that I was worried about, and I think we're probably at risk of that, is that, you know, we've got 5 priorities, we've got, you know, the others of the 12, so maybe that's 7, but given the mixing, maybe it's not, that to deal with. So how do we handle that in a conversation with a fairly large group of people? And all kinds, each of these 5 has tremendous, you know, depth and issues and on and on and on. And I think that it's really, really important as, you know, from our standpoint as the TCPB, that we assure that there is ongoing progress that is being made. And that what happens is that we indicate kind of where things are from our perspective. Ours is an approval process ultimately, but it is also, as I've said many times, we are a co-creative group in the sense that we participate in the discussions and the creation of priorities, and that is very different than what an oversight, you know, our colleagues in the oversight committee do, who react to what is given. So to that end, what I have taken the liberty to do, and I do not want to, I'm going to shut up as to the content of all this. There's so many more, there are so many people here who know so much more about this than I do. But I think the role that I would like to try is to put something on the table for the TCPB members to be able to consider as a motion to, for progress. The reality is that, at least in my view, this is not an implementation plan. And, you know, there's interesting stuff in it, which I appreciate, some very thoughtful things. But it's not really something where TCPB can say, you know, go forth and do, or in Star Trek terms for some of us, make it so. So from that, and I think there's a motion, could you put up the verbiage? It's fairly short. That,
yes, and Matt, I'll be able to share. So Matt requested that we put a language in a slide that, if we can share that. Yeah, from an accessibility standpoint, we were able to accommodate that request. So I don't know if the slide.
It's up in the Zoom.
It is.
Well, we need to see it.
There we go. There it is.
Okay. And since I can't read it, Madeline's volunteered.
Okay, so it says, the Tri-County Planning Body requested the counties to return with a regional plan proposal about what areas could be prioritized with information as to why any areas would not be prioritized. This plan proposal would consider the focus strategy memo, survey results from the December meeting, and meeting summary from the landlord recruitment goal language was approved. We want to recognize that while this document is not what was requested, we see promising opportunities. We ask that Metro assume leadership and work with the counties to create an actual implementation plan, which includes the recommendations adopted at our prior TCBB meetings based on the Focus Strategies report. If a recommendation is not viable, we ask Metro to identify it and explain why not. We further ask Metro to inform us when it can present such a plan for our consideration.
So I would move that for consideration of the group. I do not want to in any way influence the conversation itself, but I do think that we need to wind up being in a position where there is some action Metro has, or excuse me, the TCPB has taken. This is my thought as to it, and so I offer that for consideration of the group, and you know, hopefully this will be helpful.
Thanks for that, Matt. And Ebony has yielded her time for comments. I do want to do a time check. We're running pretty over. I don't think folks have, well, I don't know if folks want to stay longer or if there's a way that we can shorten the HMIS technology bit. But we only have a few minutes and I see quite a bit of conversation to be had. So sort of wanting to check in with the group of what's sort of the best path forward here.
I don't want to leave this meeting without accomplishing something versus just talk, talk, talk.
Okay. And how's the rest of the group
We need to
doing?
get regional liftoff.
Okay.
That motion, which is now gone, we've not been given it to us in writing, so I have to go on memory for 2 paragraphs. But the essence of it says that this proposal from county staff, after our review of focus strategies, was not based on the focus strategies. That's one of the things that this says. It also says, you didn't give us what we requested. I also take issue with that. I think this is very harmful. We will never get liftoff of any of our goals if we choose this process. We'll just be iterating and iterating and iterating. Having watched the Metro Council public discussion from the auditor report, they have been feeling the pressure, but they've clearly said, we need to see more results and more results faster. We being everybody, community. Because community is making judgment calls based on what they're seeing. So we can't afford to delay. I think we have very thoughtful work product here that's been provided for us. Would I relate to more detailed implementation plans? Yes. But at some point, we have to say this is a good enough direction for further engagement between county staff and Metro staff on more detailed implementation plans, or we will never achieve any regionalization.
Thanks, Chair. And go ahead, Patricia, for a response.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify interpretations, because when I read this, I'm seeing like both and, I'm not seeing don't do. And just I'm seeing let's move forward and look at the rest of the recommendations as well. Like I'm not seeing, I'm saying this is my interpretation of what's written.
What was requested.
Correct, because my understanding, I think, I don't know, Matt, if you want to.
Recommendations based on the focus strategies report. So there are some really interesting assertions made here.
Well, again, my goal is to put us in a position where we have implementation plans that are where the TCPB can participate in the prioritization, where we can in fact have the conversations, but have them based on implementations, timeframes, budgets, and that's what we talked about in our prior meeting, and which I think was the December meeting, if I'm recalling. And in that, I believe we were very specific that we were looking for implementation plans. This is not an implementation plan. This is a further conversation about priorities and issues. And I'm not, trying to be critical. It is what it is. But the fact is that I think this, for us to make a determination as the Tri-County Planning Body, we need to understand why some things were considered priorities and others were not. That is not part of this report. If we're going to allocate $7 million, and share your point about, what are the implications for other things is very important. But that's a big chunk of dough. And allocating and authorizing that amount of money without any idea how's it broken up, you talked about it relative to other goals. other than the indemnity fund, which I gather now is 3 million, so that's nice. But we don't know how that works. We don't have a feel or information about what the 4 million is. That's, you know, how much is it for which items, and on and on and on. So the consequence is, what I'm asking for in this is that, you know, Metro, because they are the ones who have the responsibility and the lead on regionalization and so forth, and the regional fund, that basically that it goes to Metro to flesh out those issues as they relate to creating toward an implementation plan with the kinds of things that an implementation plan ordinarily would have. That is not this.
I'm going to jump in here. I'd like to provide some clarification about some of the elements of our work to date. And my understanding as a county partner in this work of the Tri-County Planning Body, because I think there is a couple points of confusion or misunderstanding perhaps, and I totally agree. This is an opportunity for the three counties and Metro to come together to bring more clarification forward for the body. But I do want to stress that we've been collecting funding and setting it aside since the beginning of the implementation of this measure. 5% a year is required to be held by the three counties. And now that the Tri-County Planning Body has set the 6 goals, we have instruction and clarity that we are budgeting resources towards the investment of programming to achieve those 6 goals. So it is important for us to, A, be investing those resources towards regional efforts that this committee has set, and B, to be doing so in alignment with the direction and strategies outlined in partnership with this body. And so part of our urgency here in bringing forward this recommendation and putting a dollar amount behind this set of recommendations is we want to get spending the RIF in alignment with the TCPB, but because we don't yet have clarity on how to do that, or we're doing that without the involvement of the TCPB because we haven't yet made it to that step. So that's one bit. And then a second bit is that we're going to have consultant reports coming forward on all of these goals because we're looking for expertise to help round out the strategies that we, the 4 jurisdictions behind this Tri-County Planning Body, want to advance with your leadership here at the TCPB. And those consultant reports are not new goals or not new recommendations. That's new information for the 4 jurisdictions and the TCPB members to consider. So it's not our understanding that the Focus Strategies report set forward 12 new goals. It's our understanding that those were 12 considerations to help inform how we would achieve the first goal of the TCPB, which is around the landlord's strategy. And so that's what's been brought forward, is that information compiled with our county work and partnership with Metro. I want to call out Metro staff was at the table with us working through this. So that's the compilation of this set of recommendations, is gathering all of that information, and that's how we envision other goals going forward will include consultant reports, but those aren't new sets of goals that inform, that we add to the list of goals. So I hope that's helpful extra context here for folks.
Thanks, Jess. And I'm going to go ahead and pass to Steve. I think you had a comment.
Yeah, it's a shame we try to get all these topics.
Sorry, somebody online has had their hand up for a while. I don't know if you guys can see the chats at all.
Yeah, it's Christina, it's your hand. We'll get to you right after Steve.
I'm sorry, but I think, okay, I think there's actually a larger issue here that I see. I think the work was a good start. It was a great start, actually. There's a lot of good stuff, and I've been impatient as much as Chair Harrington to get something done regionally. The counties have been doing some great work. This is an opportunity for us to really think out of the box, really, and think about, put this thing on steroids. Really have some vision about how we can really make some big changes in the community. I think Monta's piece on block leasing is very important when we talk about people who are chronically homeless, who have major challenges. We need to think out of the box all the time. What I'm suggesting, what I felt in the last meeting, is that we said Metro and the counties were going to work together, or the counties and Metro. Maybe Metro was part of it. The memo is not, I don't have Metro's name on it. I have 3 counties. I don't know why we can't develop mutual trust, respect, partnership, and collaboration among the counties and Metro. We need that to happen. This is too important. That's the issue. Let's do it.
Okay. Thanks for that, Steve. And go ahead, Christina.
So many people talked before, so now I'm forgetting my thoughts. But yeah, I feel very unrespected that I tried to raise my hand and everybody was allowed a time or just start talking. Just wanted to name that.
I appreciate that. Thanks for saying that.
I think what I was thinking, going back to landlord recruitment, one of my thoughts is thinking about priorities. I didn't see anything that included translation interpretation or how equity is gonna play in that aspect. And maybe there's already plans to do that, but I like to hear it and see it. I just feel that if we don't put it in writing, we're gonna miss it. I know many landlords in East Portland that are pop and mom landlords that don't speak English, and I don't know other counties, but there might be other landlords that don't speak English. So how they're gonna benefit or house people and put their units up to code if we don't have it here as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Okay. It looks like there are a few. Did you want to go ahead and respond to that, Nicole?
Yes, briefly, thank you. Just want to thank you, Christina, so much for calling that out and name that when it comes to both the training goals and the education communications goals, that's going to be a critical component, is ensuring there's translations to landlords, to service providers, and then if there's tenant-facing materials that we include a broad consideration of the language access. So just want to echo, yes, thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And it looks like, Christine, you have a comment? Councilor Lewis?
Yeah, sure, thank you. I guess in reflecting on the presentation, I think that the theory of change for the system is 100% right direction. I think where I'm hearing both tension and I have questions myself is when it comes to tactics, which ones get prioritized, which ones fall into different people's hands, and that's very much a practitioner level question that I think this table assume they'd see some transparency into when essentially releasing dollars. So I guess my question is, what is the framework for documenting those tension points or those decisions to allow that transparency to this table and to the public?
It's a great question, Chair. And I think just to name the continuous improvement element of this work, that's probably something we need to work on improving. We included narrative in the memo, but would be eager for feedback or considerations of what should we do next time to make sure that's better documented.
Thank you. Great. Okay, I see we've got Patricia, and then we'll go Brianna and Ebony. So go ahead, Patricia.
I think that was an old card, but since you called on me, sorry. I wanted to speak to your comment, Chair Harrington, and the rationale for why Metro's logo is not on the proposal. The proposal was received by Metro and reviewed. We discussed it, we shared some feedback with the counties, but we still had a lot of questions and work to do. And so it felt like because we didn't create it, we didn't like input into the content, that a better approach would be like, this is actually a really good start. It is great to see, again, as I mentioned earlier, what folks feel is a priority, what folks feel as an opportunity, what folks feel, and then we see that there aren't areas that are included here, but it would be helpful to know more about why. And so what we're sharing is that it would be helpful to pick up from here we support moving these things forward. And I think it's important that we continue to work together to figure out what else is in the way, and so that the committee has the level of information that it needs when it makes funding decisions, for example, an allocation of what that money is actually going to do, how does that get across the counties, et cetera. So it is really to your point earlier of like, just how do these pieces fit together? Like, we don't have that level of information. And so we wanted to come today to be like, yes, this is really good start. And let's pick up from here and go further to understand what are the, I'll say, the implications and why the other areas were deprioritized.
Okay, go ahead, Brianna.
Hi, folks, and I just want to circle back with Christina's comment. So Christina, thank you so much for raising your hand and for sharing that question about equity and how it relates to this goal. I think that's super important, and I appreciate you naming that here. To go along with what Nicole said, is having that be, equitably, like making sure that we have things translated and available for folks of all different backgrounds. Super important. I also want to mention that we did have a deliberate conversation about how equity would fit into these goals at the Tri-County level. And what we had decided on was, instead of having it be a distinct thing that is being prioritized as like one of the recommendations we're moving forward, we're really looking to pull equity out and have it be embedded into these goals across the way and how we present this. So if we missed the mark on that, I do apologize, but that was part of the conversation. I know we are really engaging in conversations about what equity looks like and what that can look like at the regional level. And I don't want to speak for my colleagues from the other counties, but I know that we are all building up teams and have teams for equity that we're working towards to be able to dig deeper in that. So I just wanted to appreciate that comment and let you know that, yes, that is 100% a consideration we're working on, and just appreciate you naming that here.
Thanks, Brianna. Ebony?
Yes, thank you. I was just wanted to check in with everybody and see, reminder that these are not like, hey, we're going to do everything that is on this list today, but do we want to vote to move forward with these items that are on the list? I think it might be a great time to kind of think about that, considering we only have 10 minutes left. And if not, then let's make a plan to maybe put that on the agenda for the beginning of next month's meeting. But I do want to remind us that, like, hey, now is the time to act. We are not voting on this is for sure happening. We are voting to move this along. And I think that might be a good place to start. And we can always, advocate for more even next month and get a better timeline from the counties about the remainder of the recommendations for county implementation. So let's just have a little check-in now here, guys, and see what we want to do before we run out of time.
Okay. And Chair Harrington, I know you had a comment. Did you want to make it before we move to that vote?
No, I would prefer that we consider the co-chair's remarks.
Okay, so it sounds like Ebony put out a recommendation to move forward with the 5 that are on the table, and then have further conversations about what to do with any of the other recommendations. Is that correct, Ebony? Okay. Monta, I saw that yours is up. Did you want to make a comment?
I was just trying to get clarification from Co-Chair Chapman's first recommendation was to not let perfection be the enemy of the good, move this on with some guardrails around it between Metro and the county so we can, like Chair Harrington said, get some lift off here and get some decisions made so we can move forward. That's what I read in your piece over there, and I was just wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
Is that what we want to do?
Well, that's what I was aiming for.
Okay.
I think is this still on?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what Ebony has proposed and what I have proposed, to me, she's far more succinct and all that, but I think it's the same idea. The question is, moving forward on the 5 is consistent with what I believe I had proposed, and I'm sorry, Chair Harrington, if it was taken differently, but that's what it was intended to say. I believe that is what it says. But doing so in the context of sending it to the Metro and the counties to flesh out what do these 5 really mean, and also to consider how do the others fit in. And should, is this the right, are these the only 5 that we're going to start with? And have some explanation of why the other, if it's 7, whatever the number is, are not what we're going to start with. That's information that isn't really there. And so what I'm asking for is clarification and filling out. I think that that is something that this group is entitled to have. There's nothing in what I have proposed that would say that we would not, the Metro and the counties would not begin work to make these things happen. And I'm glad to hear, I've forgotten whose comment it was, that, there's already work to that effect. So it's unfortunate that we are where we are in terms of some of the tone that is here, but these are hard issues. These are not simple things. Everybody here, I think, is operating in very good faith. Everybody's working really hard to try to deal with issues that our society has not chosen to deal with literally for decades. So it's going to be tough at times, and there's going to be some glitches. But I think that the way to deal with this is to send it to the people with the responsibility, and that's Metro and the counties, but at the same time, require that what we get are actual implementations, that what we get are explanations of why this and not that, that what we get includes timelines and results and metrics and the things that actually generate a real plan. So I will second Ebony's, that we move forward with the 5, with Metro and the counties working together, co-creating, not reviewing, and that we are provided with the information as I have attempted to articulate it.
Thanks, Matt. Steve and Chair Harrington, I saw both of yours up. Did you still want to make
What
a?
Matt just said, it's fine with me. If there's a joint effort, I'd like to see Metro on this memo. If we had all parties on the memo, we can move forward. I don't think we're that far apart. Just need to collaborate.
And Chair Harrington, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would like to receive an electronic copy of the motion that was earlier proposed. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I'm hearing that there's a shared interest in moving and making progress forward, that there's some questions about some partnership, how that will look between Metro and the counties. I'm hearing that there are some requests for the implementation plan and the types of details that are going to be in there in terms of how money is spent, what tactics are prioritized, how exactly we're going to go about achieving these goals. It seems like there's an agreement that this is a good start and that there may be a chance down the road to consider if there's other things that need to be included, but I'm generally hearing agreement around moving forward with the 5. Is that a correct understanding that I have? Yeah, okay. Oh, please go ahead.
Assuming we do call this vote, right now, are we voting to approve the dollar amount towards these things, or are we just approving these are directions we want to go?
I don't believe the dollar amount is going to be approved until we actually have a full developed plan that has a budget attached to it. This is just moving the work along that we can vote to move this work along on the 5 that were presented to us today.
Right, so
And
turning
for
it.
what it's worth, one of
need
the
to vote on
reasons that I did what I did on all this is that I do not believe that we are in a position to approve a dollar amount until we have the information behind the dollar amount. So I would see this as moving the work forward, but not authorizing the expenditures until we know what the expenditures are specifically for. That's my view.
And Jess, it looked like you might have a response.
Might be another opportunity for regional partnership here, because I think that this is a tactical procedural question that needs to get clarified for the committee. My understanding is that we aren't bringing precise budgeting, funding approval votes to this committee, that this committee votes on advancing strategies that have built into them components of timelines, project plans, and budgets amounts. So this feels like an opportunity for us to get clarity back on what these votes actually have to entail for the committee to take to move the work forward. But yes, lean in, Liam.
Yeah, the Tri-County Planning Body is responsible for approving financial investments in these strategies. It's written in the charter. And I can put, I'm not sure we have time to pull that language up now, but we can share it with the TCPB members and our county partners.
All right, go ahead, Chair Harrington.
It's February. The counties will be providing year 3 annual reports with the close of the fiscal year, June 30th. And then the SHS Oversight Committee will be working on the year 3 report. If we don't give them something, then we will have said regionalism has no results for its first concrete year of convening around goals, that all we will have done is define goals. I think we can do much better than that. We've had consultants come in with their research. We're figuring out the ecosystem, the parts of this in an iterative fashion. It is not, if we approve this general work plan with a general budget, of course the counties are going to have to produce materials that where Metro with the committee will release those funds. But we have to start at least building a budget and working forward. We are currently on track to produce nothing at the end of year 3, other than we met on goal 1, we had a bunch of meetings, we met on goal 2, we got research from a consultant, we have ideas, but until we have line by line work week plans and we can tell who exactly is being working on these parts and pieces, we're never going to get liftoff. You keep talking about how this is iterative. We can and should have structures in place to manage a budget for regionalization. But right now, we have 0. And that is not what I want us to have at the end of this fiscal year.
Thank you, Chair. Patricia?
Sorry, I know it's 6 o'clock. Chair Harrington, I appreciate your sentiment and your words. And I agree that we all have to move more. We need to move quicker. And I think we would all be very disappointed. And I think we will have done a great disservice if we do not have much more than plans by the end of this fiscal year. I do find that there are lots of things in this proposal that are actionable. And so what I would like to suggest is, in cooperation with the counties, is that we come back with some actual specifics about how that with timelines, deadlines, actual specifics about what we're going to do to move some of these areas forward, because I do think some of these can be moved quicker than others. And what I'm hearing the committee say is just, I need a little bit more detail about where this dollar is going. And so I think that we can move. I would suggest that we are moving with the initiatives that the counties have proposed. Again, they do not get limited. We're not limited to this place. I'm hearing the committee very clearly say we want to explore the other options on the table, understand how they fit in. But I think we can do both at the same time, and Metro can commit to work with the counties, use our capacity to bring more details and something more specific to the committee in the next meeting.
That could work. However, that puts at jeopardy our being able to achieve some results by the end of this fiscal year. I appreciate that someone put together a draft work plan. I think that the layout of this work plan could benefit from some improvement, just basing off of the work that's been going on for Goal 2 and this work from Goal 1. We have had proposals on Goal 2, and that work is moving forward. I don't believe we expected anywhere near the implementation requirements that I'm hearing us have for this goal. So I just want to make sure that we're able to demonstrate that at least for 2 goals by the end of this fiscal year, that we've got some results, more than just activity, okay? I think our work plan needs to reflect when we have a goal, when are we getting input from a consultant? What we demonstrated last November is that the consultant just delivers a report directly to the committee without it being reviewed by the 4 partner staff. I'm okay with that, as long as you heard me talk about with Focus Strategy Report, that is then reviewed by the 4 staff groups. And then a collaborative next step approach such as this is put together. But because of the level of work that needs to be done by our staff to deliver the services, help service providers build capacity, train up and whatnot, it is taking time between consultant research report and work plans, right? General work plans. I really trust Metro staff and county staff to be able to take general feedback from us and put together more specifics. But we have got to be more efficient. I'm not saying cram more work into the 2 hours. I think we as a committee have to be more mindful of the fiscal year requirements for SHS in total, how we fit into that, because the SHS Oversight Committee is relying upon us to feed information back, and that we have a fire lit under our fannies to start delivering to those expectations. And I am more than happy to sit down with Metro staff and whoever else wants to hear it on proposals towards that end. And also, I think a timeline that would help demonstrate our progress to this. I'm good at that kind of strategic graphics work. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Chair. It looks like we have Nicole Larson up next for a comment. And also.
Yeah, I am so grateful for all of the work from the counties and from Metro and all of the progress being made, and hearing the presentation today. I really am supportive of, the work continuing and moving forward in each of the goal areas. And for me, what I'm hearing tension over really is a process-oriented issue. How are we going to allocate funding from the RIF and keep moving forward in each of the goal areas? And I think any aversion to voting on a specific amount of funding today that I'm hearing, collectively, is a lack of information about requests that might be made from the other goal areas, and also a desire to not stop or halt any of the good work that's happening in each of those goal areas. So my request would be clarification about a process for the RIF. How and when will we have information from each of the goal areas, so that if there's a finite amount of money, we can, equitably distribute that to each of the priority areas, and make sure that, it's not just based on order of presentation and have, 3 of the goal areas take up all of the money and then too bad for the other goal areas, but really just if we can clarify that process, so that when we're voting, we have that information to compare. I think, expediting the work moving forward is really in everybody's interest.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Lewis. Did you want to go, Montes?
Yeah, I just wanted, for clarification, we have about $40 million in the RIF, right? This is a $7 million ask.
Yeah.
There's plenty of money to deal with all the other goals. Just as a provider, working with county funders, we submit budgets all the time without detailed implementation plans of what we're gonna do. And I feel like in turn, we need to trust our county providers that they can at least start this work. I understand wanting to know, what are we doing with the 7 other goals? Where do they fit in this plan later? But I feel like we have to have some trust here and get the ball moving. A lot of things Chair Harrington said resonated with me as well. So I understand both sides of it, and also watching our community continuing to suffer over government processes is disheartening. And I'm sitting in this room and I'm part of that problem right now, And I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. I don't see personally any harm in approving $7 million out of a $40 million pot for 5 goals so the counties can get working. That's just where I'm at today.
Thanks, Manta. Go ahead, Counselor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. I think my concern around moving forward with the number is because, well, the number that was on the screen is because it was different from what was in the packet, and there's still some work to be done, working towards a shared understanding of how the budget on this is going to work. That said, I do think that 7 and change will be the number, and it doesn't matter the other programs and the other goals, because the rift is big enough. I'd like to suggest a middle ground and move forward allocating $1 million today with the expectation that next month, the extra 6 million and change will have a one-pager that we can vote on to add to this program. I know putting money into program takes time. Programming itself takes time. So let's not stall that in the next month. You're not going to spend $1 million in the next month. Let's get the funds moving, and then next month, let's have a one-page budget proposal that we can release the rest of the funds.
Okay. Any thoughts on that recommendation?
Could we see the pager ahead of time? Like, don't wait until next month, but maybe if it is ready to be emailed to us, and then we could vote on the first thing next meeting, or vote over, via Google or
No,
something
we
like
can't.
an application?
We have to vote in person. We went over that as
Oh.
part of our public meeting requirements. Has to be done in the meeting.
Okay, but can we get the information ahead of time so we don't have to? So we have the information when we come.
So it sounds like your request is that the one-pager that was suggested by Counselor Lewis be provided to you in advance of the meeting so you have time to review. Is that your request? Got it. Okay, I saw a couple of signs turn. Steve, I saw
Well,
yours.
just real quick, I think we're close. I mean, frankly, $7 million with the amount of money that is in this initiative, we can do. There's no doubt in my mind. We need some little more clarity of what we're actually going to do. And I would just like Metro to put their name on this with it. I want to see consensus to move forward. It shouldn't be that difficult. Within a month, we should be able to do this. There's a lot of important work to do. The urgency is there. I think that there's a lot of good work here. I'm very interested in the Housing Connector and what it's producing in Multnomah County. I think there's many landlords, a whole lot of systems out there that really don't know how to plug in yet with us. That's not saying we're not doing great work already. We could do more, particularly because we have the ability to think systemically. So that's what I would hope by next week, next month, we could come back with that. And if they want $1 million today, fine, but I don't know if that makes any difference. I think really the issue is, these are good proposals. We need to move forward collaboratively. That's it.
Okay. Go ahead, Jess.
I just want to offer, I think that we can do that.
Good.
Work with the border sections, come back together with a complete proposal.
Yeah. Oh, we can't hear you online.
Sorry, everyone at home. I think I'm just echoing support for that recommendation. Logistically, I think the staff can come together in a month with Metro to refine this proposal and bring it back ready for your full vote.
Okay. Any other thoughts, feedback? Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the group is ready to move forward with the 5 that are there, with the amount of money sort of suggested, with a commitment to next month bring back a more detailed plan of where the money is going and what this will look like in more detail. Is that correct? Okay, does this need to be voted on today?
I think we should.
Okay.
So for the sake of, it sounds like this is the kind of understanding of the motion that the co-chair Brown was making. I'll second that. And so we can take a vote.
All right.
Repeat the vote again, what the motion is.
Yeah, so it sounds like the motion is to move forward with the 5 recommendations suggested by the counties for Goal 2, with the budget that they've suggested, that 7 and change budget, with a commitment to submitting a completed, more in-depth proposal that includes where the money would go to and more details about each of those recommendations. Is that correct?
Chair, the additional components will be budget, specificity in the work plan, also addressing other items not included at this time, and bringing Metro Foley into the work with us. That's the completeness.
Okay, so can we go ahead and vote on that? All right, so I believe this is a majority plus one board? Okay, and do you typically raise hands?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to our signs or hands, we'll count both. Okay, so for it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe this is a 16. Oh, on the stream,
8
you've got
in the
8,
room.
9, 10,
How many hands are raised online?
3, 5, 6.
4,
All right.
5, 6.
Looks like that's the majority, if not everyone, so it looks like it passes, so that's the vote. So we'll include that in the notes in our summary. I appreciate everyone spending the extra time to get that done. I also appreciate the time that the HMIS team yielded to us to make sure that we could get that progress made, so thank you very much. I believe I'll pass off to the co-chairs to do a quick closing. If there's anything you'd like to say?
Well, can I ask a question first?
Please, go ahead.
So it was a little hard for me to figure out what, from having the slides for this HMIS topic, what our role on the committee is for today's meeting. So there's a set of information with a whole lot of goals and recommendations. What is unclear to me is what is the ask of the committee? So I would appreciate it as if, as part of the agenda, and I know Metro knows how to do it, they do it with MPAC and JPAC, for example. What is the ask of the committee? Were you just here to inform us? Or did you want us to, like when we had the focus strategy and before, it was the presentation of the report, right? It was just informing us, right? And then we made sure that Metro and the counties were then going to work with that as the research for goal 2. And so our meeting today was to get a proposal for proceeding with a goal 2 plan. For this HMIS one, I'm not sure what the ask was for today. And so if it's going to get bumped to next month, I want to know, as part of the agenda, what is the ask? The other thing is, if we're going to have 2 meaty topics, the agenda has to have more time for the body to ask questions and take action. That's going to mean it's a longer meeting.
Okay.
If you can't tell, I'm really goal-oriented and really mindful of deadlines. And I am on fire on the end of the year deadline, as you heard me talk about in prior months and ask about a work plan and things like that. But I want to make sure before we finish today's meeting that we know we have a better idea of what is before us next month and how are we increasing our success in achieving it.
We have a follow-up meeting tomorrow, Chair Harrington, so I will make sure that that is added to the agenda. I also want to be mindful that we're 16 minutes over time, and ask that if there are any more things we'd like to be added to the agenda, I'm going to ask that some of the Metro staff reach out to members so that we can make sure that those things are added for the next meeting, and maybe some additional clarifiers be brought to next meeting. But yeah, I do want to thank everybody for their patience, time, and energy today. I know it was a long one. We got something accomplished though. And yeah, I'm just very proud of all the work and the collaboration that was done here tonight.
Thanks, Ebony. Matt, did you have anything to add?
I think Ebony said it well.
Okay, well, then I think that we've reached the end of the agenda. I appreciate how candid and thoughtful everyone was in their responses and the progress we made forward. Thanks for letting me be a part of this meeting, and happy Valentine's Day. I hope you all have a great evening.